Oh my god, this was a major panic attack. Coming along, I decided I was going to, where is the tension wrench? There it is. Tension wrench, and put this, which is about 90 foot-pounds, which is about 220 newton meters of torque. Put it on all the head bolts, and I decided before I take off the cover, I'm going to check out the head bolts. So I started with the ones that I know to start with first. Okay, so I checked that one. That one was nice and tight. So I decided, what's the pattern? I'm going to see if I can find a loose one. Find a loose one. I'm taking the rocker cover off. And so I did that one. Then I went to this one. And I was like, oh, that's a little bit loose. Then I went to this one. Oh, that's a little bit loose too. Okay, I'm taking that rocker cover off and I'm doing stuff. But because of how hard this thing is to remove, I ended up trying to get a screwdriver and find a place to put the screwdriver and lift this corner up. Normally I do it from here, but to be a smarty pants today, I was like, I'll see what I can do here. And then I just saw all this play in it, and I was like, why the hell is there so much play in the gear? That shouldn't be that weak. You can probably see the timing gear is freaking severed from the material. There is so much, it's so broken that if I didn't do this stupid thing, I would be on the road, potentially with one leg left, which is this bottom one here. That's the only one holding the freaking centrifugal forces from the outside to the inside. And these two here are just floaters. And if they float, then there's a potential chance that it's going to stress that final leg enough that that one will let go. This whole gear will be severed from this piece, and then the timing will not be able to maintain the proper timing for the cam, and the cam will go at a different speed to everything else, no matter if the timing belt is attached or not, because the timing belt's going to still keep turning this, but it's not going to turn the cam, and then the engine's going to go bang, and I'll be in big trouble there. So I'm in actually a bit of shock from seeing that. That's really pisses me off, because now I need a new gear, and that means I've got to take all this shit out, everything out, and it's going to take me about an hour to take this all apart, get the timing belt off, take that off with the head rock cover off somehow, and then put a new one on. Now we do have a spare one, so I can probably get away with the spare, but it's not necessarily a spare, it's just the engine. We're going to pick up the engine today. I was thinking, I'll do my head bolts, then I'll go for a drive. And we've got this head here. Now this head here has, as far as I'm aware, good gear. This is what it's supposed to look like. It's not meant to have any freaking play in it whatsoever. So this one is actually in really good condition. They should be about the same. This one has no brakes in here. So mine's holding on by this bit here. And they're broken here exactly in the same spot. So that's not good. So if we can get a better look at mine, you'll see what I mean by it's actually broken there. I think you've already seen it enough that I'm just wasting time a little bit. But I'll try to get the camera in. I can't exactly... this is so hard to get in. There's just so much stuff in the way. Okay. So as you can see, there's the severed mark right there. I don't know if you can see it any better here. You can see that one's severed. Absolutely no way that's going to hold. See? The material just moves. So that's the timing gear for the top cam. The things you have to find out just to keep an engine alive. You know, we put so much work into this, and you just find one problem after another. But if I didn't find that problem, it will cause more damage. And while if you weigh things up, it's costing a lot of money, by the end, when this thing's fully rebuilt and kept in good condition and whatnot, the value of this engine's going to be worth it for work. Probably, if I add the whole car up as a whole, it's not worth the money that I've spent on it, but for me, it's going to give me a better return than if I sell it. So it's also something that everyone wants, so it's something that I want to keep because everyone wants it. Because it's actually not that bad. It's really good for its age and everything, this vehicle. The problem is you find things that break, and it's just stressful. For someone who likes to keep their car in good nick, finding something like that really ticks you off. Having to work on your car every week can also tick you off. You don't want to need to work on a car. You want to work on a car. That's how things are. You don't want to have to pull the timing gear all that shit apart just to fix a timing gear. You want to make sure beforehand, you want everything, when you do the job, you want everything to be in good condition, so when you put it together, it's not going to let go. But when you pull something off and you find something broken, it's just something that makes you mad, and then you have to pull it all apart just to fix that, because you need to fix it, or else it'll destroy the whole engine. That thing is so critical. This thing will cost me $1,000 if I do not fix it. Otherwise, we might be able to get away with welding the whole thing together properly. So this isn't actually an easy task either, because there might be a balance to this that will cause some issues. But we might be able to, because of how severed it is, we might be able to get an angle grinder in some sections and then grind it out into a V shape, and then weld, tack it here, tack it there, do the same there, and then weld it once, then weld the others, and then they'll all be nice and solid. It's not that easy either, because then you have this weird tension which will pull this one way and then this the other way, and then the gear will be out of balance. It's not as easy as it sounds. There are ways we can do this though. And one of those ways we can do this is we take the gear off completely, we clamp it to a really strong flat plate, and then we do maybe the back side and we grind it all the way through till this crack here, and then we weld it. Now, that could also offset this piece here, which means that that won't run right, which is why there's a lot of risks with trying to do that. It sounds like, oh, we can just weld it and it'll be good, but the various factors stop us from doing it in a proper way. It's better to just buy another one of these and put it on rather than trying to weld it. But we are probably going to end up trying to weld it, because while we have that one spare, we can find out if we can do this well enough that it will work. And once it's done, we've got a lathe, we can get a dial indicator and make sure that this spins true. So the way you'd check if it spins true is you'd check this side of the teeth and you'd roll it all the way around, and at the higher points of the teeth, that should always be 0. If we find something out, we might be able to flex it with a hammer and bash it a little bit at points. This is what my dad normally does anyway, so he could get this tacked up, welded and whatnot, and then he could set this true, because this is not going to run true like this. No way. That's, if there's load on this, this will inevitably, I think that's only recently failed, and there's just too much play in this. I mean, that's not right. That shouldn't have that much play in that. But you can see when you load up this belt, it moves the whole gear. So this is recent. I don't know how recent that is, but that's probably a good thing that I decided I was going to do this, because that is just too much play in the top belt. The timing marks could slip, and it could be also wearing out the teeth on the inside, because you shouldn't be able to flex it like this either. That should be nice and tight, but that's loose, and that's near the middle. So if I loosen that screw and this tightens up the belt, we already know there's a major problem there, and that's not good. It's not going to be easy to tighten up the belt, but that's just too much. That should be about 3 mil, I think. That's more than 3 mil. That's about, I'd say it's about 10 mil of travel, meaning there's a higher risk of the belt slipping over the gears and then going kaboom, just because something's gone wrong. But there, in a way, it's normal, because this gear's turning back. You go to the point where it stops turning, that's about right. So it's because the load goes that way, so always pull it nice and true and tight. But you can see, if I pull this hard enough, you see it's actually moving. That you can see that crack opening and closing. Enough load is going to go on this point here. This point will let go, and then this engine will be gone. So that's how close I was. This is how close things come for me personally, working on this thing, to letting go with the engine. The engine is such a pain in the ass to work on. I swear I have never seen an engine that has head bolts always needing retorquing after 100 kilometers. Every 100 kilometers to 500 kilometers, you need to retorque those head bolts, or else the head gasket lets go. I've replaced this head gasket 4 times over the lifetime I've had this vehicle, and that's in the course of about 4 or 5 years. So it hasn't really made sense. The only thing I found out was some diesel stuff that makes a bit of sense. Retorque those bolts, 10 times within 10,000 kilometers roughly. And what that does is, if there is a point in time in which they come loose, you tighten them up. And after that, if they come loose again, you tighten them up until the point, you repeat those processes until the point where those bolts are no longer loose, they're always tight. But you never ever do what the instructions say, because that's the biggest crock of shit that they've ever mentioned. They say, with these head bolts, back them off 90 degrees, back all head bolts off 90 degrees, and then retorque them. And it's actually to the torque specifications. The reason that doesn't work is because these bolts here are always getting loose. So whenever I get the tension wrench on them, I'm pulling them down, not releasing the tension off of them. Because if I release the tension, that stuffs the gasket up. That makes a bit of sense. So now I have to figure out how I'm going to do this job. And I'm trying to figure this out. I know there's no power here. There shouldn't be any power there. I could always... maybe. Actually, it's actually not a very good idea. That scratches up the ceiling surface. It's such a pain to get that rocker cover off. It's not even funny. I'm just going to start this point here, and I'm going to try to do it the way I normally do it. Pretty sure it's like this. I don't like doing it like this, but that's the only way it works. And then I break the gasket. That blue stuff is too strong for this application here. I might want to find a weaker sealant, because that is just too tough. As you can see, that's such an ass to get off. And now it's broken off the gasket over here, the seal, the rock cover gaskets. Okay, well, it doesn't matter. Everything lets go. So what we have in here, though, is we have 2 new roller rocker arms. We have what appears to be now black oil. Now, for a little while, that oil wasn't actually as black as it is now. But since I've been boosting this a little bit, the oil's turned black. So, if you do an oil change on a diesel and you're not pushing the vehicle, the oil will stay clean for a relatively long time. But as soon as you start using the power in the diesel, boosting it and whatnot, the oil turns black. And so my tip for anyone with a turbocharged diesel, and if they want to know how long they're going to make their engine last and if their fuel economy and all that's good, I'd recommend trying to evaluate your oil, because that will tell you a lot of things. If your oil is clean, you're driving it appropriately for your normal day-to-day application. But if you're doing cardio work, there might be a reason to boost your car, your vehicle, in applications where you're going uphill or you're tugging a very big load, in which case you do need that power, meaning your oil will change colors. So if you can keep your oil clean for longer, that will be probably better for your engine. So now what I got to do is, even though I've actually retensioned them in the wrong order, that's okay in my eyes, because I haven't actually gone all out. I've just done a couple here and there. There's a head bolt right here that I can get to, and if this one's loose, which I don't know if it will be or not, that's not loose. So the pattern is essentially you go from there to here, and I've done this so many times already, so it's like experience. Now this one will be loose. Look at that. You've seen this. This was all together. I haven't even backed off those tensions. And this is the proof that essentially you do not want to back them off. If you back them off, you're just making it even looser than it already is. That's not a good sign to me that those bolts are loose like that. So what I'll do is I'll go to the next set, and the next set, and the next set, and this takes... And I can do it like this. I realize my dad always says put one hand here, but the bar's strong enough in one way to do it, and not to mention you're putting rotational forces on it. There's not really much you can do by holding it here unless you're sitting on an angle. Then you got to hold it straight. But if you can hold it straight enough and pull at the same time, when you're holding it like this, essentially it will hold itself straight over there somehow. I don't get why it does that, but it works. So now I'll go to the next bolt. Unless I didn't retorque that bolt, then in which case I'm an idiot. Okay, so this is the point where it should go click, but you'll see this whole thing is going to rotate the base. Or not. That one's nice. That's what I want to see out of my head bolts. And I do what my dad does sometimes. He sometimes goes backwards and forwards between them. Like that. So, that's done. So you go middle, outside, inside, outside. That's how you figure out where you're at, where you're supposed to be. Now, I should see this rotation at the base. I'm sorry I can't get enough grip on that. Okay, so that one was a little tiny bit loose, and those are the spots in which I always let my head gasket lets go. So these bolts here are very, very detrimental to avoiding my head gasket letting go. Okay. So what I want to see, I want to make sure that feels about right. I don't feel comfortable doing this one like that. That one feels a bit iffy to tighten like this. I'll try it anyway. Nah, I'm not going to tighten like that. That doesn't feel very comfortable at all. So what I'll do, this is a bit stupid in the sense that I've got the camera like this. Let's see if I can find a spot in which, because I don't actually have my other camera. I think I can get this in here somewhere. I don't know how much of this you can actually see like that, because I'm trying to get in a spot where it'll be about right, but it's not that easy. Okay, so there's the head bolts there. That's loose. That feels a bit comfortable, but I have already done this inside one once. It's nice and tight. I'm going to do the next one. Okay, then we go to this one here. And we go to the next, same tightness, loose-ish. That would let go, that'd be a problem. That one's nice and tight. Then we go to the next one, which is back here. Okay, that's nice and tight now. It was loose. What about this one? That one's loose. I'll get over here and try to push it. Now I'll go back and I'll do this one again. To make sure it's all nice and tight. So I don't want my head bolts letting go. Okay, time to go to the next one, switch closer. Okay. Because this is the common pattern for the 4D56. Loose-ish. Not by much, but significantly important that we do not have looseness. And I'm very close to the positive terminal. That will spark if I'm not careful. So I'll go back. So this is how my dad does things, because he's like the guy who tries to be perfect, and he sometimes goes over it again. That was a little bit loose. And he normally does this 2 to 3 times, just to make sure. That was loose. Okay, so we've been to the outside to the, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we're at, I think I've messed up the pattern. I've messed up already. I think it's because the light's in the way. And that means I've actually done the incorrect torquing pattern. Jesus. I can validate that. We're at the last set of bolts, so I haven't necessarily missed anything. I could double check. There's actually nothing to double check. I mean, I've done actually right, sorry. I just realised, because I thought there was another set of bolts in, and I was like, I've already gone to this set. You go from this set to this set, and that's okay. No, I haven't actually made a mistake, I don't believe. It's just scary when you think you're going to make a mistake. Now, it's not that side, it's here. Is the head bolt. And then we got to pull it down. That's nice and tight. So, this is one of the reasons why I hate my job. It's because This is the problems I always encounter. I always encounter a problem where I got major risks and something goes wrong. I mean, I don't have a perfect vehicle, but to say the least, this is a real big pain in the ass, having to deal with these problems regularly. Come on, camera, go to a spot that's freaking... This is the problem. I can't exactly use this camera for cameraing unless I'm holding the camera, because it's a phone, not a camera. So I can't exactly get in a good enough spot. Actually not. I feel like this should be where I should end the stream. This is one of the reasons why I don't make videos of stuff anymore, is because this is how awkward things get. I don't actually have my actual camera for filming while I'm working on cars. I've only got my phone. That doesn't seem very helpful in this scenario because I can't exactly put it anywhere. I've been trying to put the cover here inside of here to try and help me put this against this surface, but it doesn't really work. Just to make a point of this is, I'm using my phone. You can see now that we're on the phone, and this is how awkward using a phone is. And I don't want to break it either because it's worth a lot of money, and it will cost me a bit to replace it. And if I have to replace the phone, then I can't fix this. I can't get a new timing gear if I have to get one. So it's just the reason why things are so stressful is because this is the sort of stuff I'm always going through with stress and stuff, and it's really not making me feel very good. So I'm going to end the video here because it's the only thing I can really do. And then I'm going to finish this job off. I'm going to have to do the timing gear. This is just ridiculous. But this is why I'm always not feeling the greatest, because there's always something to stop me from saving any money, because things constantly break and then you have to fix them. And when you have no money in the first place, you got to spend what little money you can find to fix a thing. And that's why it's like, let's try to fix it with what we've already got. We've got a welder, we've got a spare gear. Let's do that. Let's save some money up and let's rebuild this engine good and proper and replace everything that needs to be replaced. Let's fix these injectors. Let's potentially get the other pump rebuilt that's in bits and pieces because that one's kind of messed up. And that way I'll have a reliable pump and I'll have a spare one. So if the reliable pump shits itself, I'll have this one spare that actually works. So there's all these scenarios that I play out, and that's why it's like I need a reliable vehicle. And things that are old don't tend to be reliable in this sense, because this is what you expect with an old vehicle. For something to break like this, and then someone who is not always checking on their vehicle and maintaining compartments and making sure that everything's good, they will make the mistake of not noticing this and not checking everything. I don't check absolutely everything, but this is something I didn't expect to see. And this is something that started stressing me out. And this is something that would stress anyone out who puts $1,000 into a head and then finds out a couple weeks later the timing gear just let go and then destroyed your $1,000 of work. The head was about $1,200 just to do the head gasket again. That is why I'm super stressed out. And that's why I recommend to people, whoever wants to buy a vehicle and fix it up, make sure you don't spend any money unless you're going to go all the way. Prioritize the idea of, you want to do this job, but why are you doing this job? Oh, my head gasket's blown. Well, here's an idea for you. You got the car cheap, you haven't spent any money on it yet. Why don't you save up the money to consider every possible factor with that scenario that could be messed up? Why don't you consider that even if you replace a head gasket, you might have a couple valves out of shape. You might need to replace them. There's about $200 in valves in this head, maybe even more. So save up $400 just to be safe. You've got rocker arms here. This whole rocker assembly you can get for around $300 should worse come to worse, and these are all stuffed. What if I have a bearing that is irregularly worn out? What if the head is warped? What if the head is not in good condition? Worst case scenario you have to go by. If the head is stuffed, get a new head, and then you get all this assembly. So if you plan on doing a head gasket, plan to save up for buying the head. That way, if you don't have to buy the head, you'll actually have some spare money to spend on something else. That is the scenario I'll give to you, because if you have to fix a car, it's not worth it unless you can go full out, because this is going to screw up my money's worth I've spent on this. This is not worth it. If the gear comes with a new head, that's worth it. But if the gear doesn't come with a new head, then that's going to bugger me up. I would expect that if I got a new head, I'd get a new gear. I wouldn't get everything, but I'd get the new gear, because it's got to be timed to the vehicle, and of course a head should come with a gear. And if it doesn't come with a gear, then you might as well get a new gear. It's just about being safe than sorry, because this is better safe than sorry. I could have driven on this without checking my head bolts, and where I'd been in about 2 weeks' time is I'd be at a loss of $1,200 just because the head let go. And everyone says to me I'm bad at saving money. It's not that I'm bad at saving money, it's just I can't fix everything properly enough that it makes something else let go. Sometimes people tell you, don't waste your money on it. And the reason they say don't waste your money on it is because if you have a gear that's about to let go, if your gear lets go and you spent money on everything else that drives it, and you have a close, I've forgotten what they call it, but it's a piston to valve collision scenario that this could potentially have, and the gear lets go, you're gonna have pistons, valves going through pistons, and then you're gonna be up for a couple grand just to fix your whole engine. You're better off in that scenario getting a whole nother engine, and then you'll be better safe than sorry. So my plan at the moment is to try and save up a couple $100, find another motor as a spare, potentially pulling this one out, putting that one in. But the first thing I'll do is I'll keep on going for now, and what I'll do is I'll get the other engine, I'll repair it and rebuild it and whatnot. I might even get the numbers matched to the vehicle, but I'm not keeping it in the vehicle, so it's like one of those scenarios where I'm not even sure what I should do. It's kind of a scary scenario, because I want to fix my engine and put it back in here. I don't want to have a numbers not matching vehicle scenario while I'm on the road, because if I get in trouble, they're going to say I probably stole the motor, which I haven't. I've got receipts for it and whatnot. So I'm trying to figure out the best case scenario, what I can do, what I can't do, what I should do, what I shouldn't do. And not to mention, I got to keep checking my water coolant levels, because that keeps going down. This doesn't keep going up and down. This has gone up, but it hasn't gone back down. Well, it has, but it hasn't. And it's like one of those scenarios where it's running fine. I'm not having any temperature irregularities, other than if I'm pushing it up a hill, then I have problems. Now, my guess would be the head bolts coming loose would cause that problem, and it has blow by on the head gasket, and that's the main reason why I have to replace the head gasket, potentially even now, but it hasn't been going for long, so retorquing the head gasket within a 500 kilometers and not really pushing it much, or not at all, means I might be okay. They say I might have a compromised head gasket, but I've just replaced the head gasket. Let's see how we go with what we've got. Anyway, I'm going to end it here. On a high note, I brought home my dad's barbecue yesterday, not knowing about the timing gear being cracked like it is and buggered up. So I have nice barbecues at home with this. And it's going to be for the spit, putting a whole hog on the barbie. But my recommendation to my dad is to weld some flat plates on here, come out like this. The doors will always shut then and come in, which he hasn't actually done. He's worried about hooks and hooking clothing and stuff. He's trying to keep everything parallel and saying whoever shuts the doors should shut them properly, sort of thing. That's how he is. Anyway, that's what I'm going to call the end of the video. Thanks for watching, guys. Yes, I want to stop